Katie Mabbitt, Deputy Store Director at Harrods, took us through a candid story around how Harrods have been responding to the pandemic, how they've had to dig deep to find the humanness in their mission and their purpose, and to build on that to make sure that customers and employees are cared for. When we asked you to go into discussion groups to think around actually what's the impact on your business, there were some key themes that started to appear, and we're just going to spend a few minutes looking at those themes and maybe asking some questions that will help you to continue your learning and your thinking. There are a number of key themes that start to appear from your discussions on Seminar 2. That of care, connection, well-being and work-life balance. Care for each other. Care for purpose. Care for your customers. Care for your staff. And the importance of connecting with others. What's it like to connect with those who are on furlough? How will we integrate them back into the work situation? So it seems like there's a real human desire to connect, and when that's disrupted, suddenly it becomes more important to us. Some people were noticing that their well-being, their mental health actually has changed. It maybe has improved during this time, less away from the pressures and the immediate desire for outcomes. And so there's this real, what does it mean to have good well-being? This pandemic seems to have sort of shifted our thinking a bit. It's caused us to ask some important questions, which leads into this whole thing of work-life balance. So people saying that actually, do you know, I've realised that there is more to life than work. What does life mean with and without work? And how do I get a right balance? What do I not want to go back to? Margaret Wheatley, author of many useful leadership books, including Leadership in Uncertain Times. She talks about a model called the taking care model that she came across in a school in America. The idea that actually about building on the principles of taking care of yourself, taking care of others, and taking care of this place. And as a company, the company that I work for, Space, I think we've taken those principles and we've sort of embedded them into the way that we work. So how do I take care of myself? How do I take responsibility for resourcing myself? Looking at myself with compassionate eyes in terms of work-life balance. What is it that I need to do to resource myself to work to the best that I can, to be the best person I can be in the business? And then also, how do I look with compassionate eyes on those around me? What is that others need to be resourced, and how can I help resource them? How can I keep an eye out for how they're doing as a human being, not just another employee? And then how do I take care of this space? In our example in the blog that you'll find on the Knowledge Bank, it's about this business. So this place is our business. So how do I look at our business with compassionate eyes? What is it that it needs to survive and thrive? So maybe we could use that model to frame some questions about our own work. How do I take care of myself as I go back into work? How do I take care of others? And how do I take care of this business? In our first seminar with Evelina, she talked about the human need for belonging. And it seems like that theme is appearing through these seminars. This need to belong, to connect with others, to connect to a purpose that is probably greater than us. So as we go back into starting to come out of lockdown and starting to move back into our workplaces, maybe take the time to think about, what does it really mean for me to connect with others? What does it really mean for me to belong? What does that look like, and how can I create that connection for myself and for others? How can I create that sense of I am with others, I'm not on my own, I am connected to something that is larger than me? Well-being has been on the work agenda for a number of years now, and rightly so. We've realised that we cannot just burn ourselves and each other out, that we need to have some care for ourselves, to make sure that as beings we are well. And it seems that in lockdown this has become sort of really important. We've had to focus on what is it I can do and need to do to make sure that as a being I am well. And that might be physical activity, it might be mindfulness, it might be exercise, it might be going out for a walk, it might be going for a cycle, it might be reading a good book, having conversations, connecting with people. What is it that I need to do to make sure that as a being I am well? And I think it's really important as we go back into our workplaces that we start to integrate that learning that we've had. We don't just lose it and go back to what was. We think, no, I'm going to take some of this learning about, this is what I've learned about myself and others. So how can I take responsibility for the well-being of myself and for others? In the discussion groups in Seminar 1, one participant mentioned that she'd realised that there was more to life than just work. I've seen some really interesting stuff on LinkedIn about the shifting pie chart, if you like, around how we view life, and how previously life had was a big segment of that whole big circle was work. And all of a sudden that's changed now. We've realised that there are other things that are and can become as important. So maybe as we go back into this, we're in this transition of going back into work, that we start to ask ourselves the question, what is it I don't want to lose about this balance? What is it I am happy to give away again? What am I happy to go back to? And what am I happy not to go back to? What am I happy to lose? And what am I not happy to lose? So that I can take ownership for this new work-life balance that might be possible. I think one of the things that I've been amazed by through all these discussions we've had in Seminar 1 and Seminar 2 is this whole thing about being agile, that we are adapting, we're learning to adapt in the way that we care for ourselves, for each other and for the business. And that might include a compassionate eye for each other and ourselves. It might mean how do we adapt our business process, our way of serving customers. So how do we adapt about the way that we connect with each other, and what do we gain from that adapting and that agility? How do I adapt and become agile in the way that I hold my own well-being? And also, how do I adapt and become agile in this sense of how do I work with work-life balance? So maybe just notice your own agility and notice the things about that agility that you'd like to keep.